I ended the McHale is Jeremy Lin doubter, nothing more nothing less video with a hopeful tone. That McHale's overwhelmingly positive comments about Lin after the Mavs game could be a turning point, and it looks as if it is, based on the way McHale played Lin in the Suns game and based on the positive comments McHale has made about Lin after the Suns and last night's Wolves games. It wasn't just what he said either, it was his tone, his body language, everything. He was eager to say positive things about Lin after the Suns and Wolves games, as he was after the Mavs game, rather than just paying lip service. I think some people who watch my McHale is a Jeremy Lin doubter video missed the nothing more part of the title, which is critical. The nothing more part means that I don't think McHale is a Lin hater or anything of the sort. He's just a doubter that doesn't have enough confidence in Lin. That's all, nothing more. Also, despite my caveats in that video, some people think I'm a McHale hater. If you read my blog from the beginning of the season, you'll see that I'm not a McHale hater. I wasn't familiar with him as a coach, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I like him as a person as well as his ability to communicate with his players. I also like his no-nonsense attitude because I think you have to have that type of attitude to be a good coach. Anyway, some people just believe whatever they want to believe, so I'll just leave it at that. In the Suns game, McHale played Lin the right way. He let Lin be the primary floor general, and he gave Lin a lot of screens, and in particular, high screens. High screens are critical for Lin because it gives him a lot of floor to work with, so he can capitalize on his quick first step and his speed. It also allows Lin the maximum number of options because he can see the entire floor, which gives him a better chance of finding the optimal play. In the preseason and into December, Lin didn't get any screens or hardly any, which was mind-boggling. I'd see Lin had to fight through screen after screen on the defensive end, and then his man wouldn't have to worry about screens at all when they defended him. It didn't make sense to me, so I sent Daryl Morey a couple of tweets before that Knicks game that Lin went off in. It wasn't until the mid of December, starting with that Knicks game on December 17th, that McHale really gave Lin screens. But in fairness to McHale, Rockets didn't have bigs who were good at screens or comfortable with giving screens. They also had bigs who couldn't play pick and roll. The only bigs who could play pick and roll at the time was Greg Smith and T. Jones, but these guys didn't get many minutes, so maybe that's part of it. In December, McHale also started staggering Harden's and Lin's minutes, because of the talk about Harden and Lin coexisting really heated up. He has gone completely away from that for no clear reason to me, and I hope he gets back to it some. Because if you recall, that resulted in the best stretch of games for the Rockets all season, which included blowouts of the Grizzlies and the Bulls. At least in the Suns game, he let Lin be the primary floor general. A quote after that game from Aaron Brooks says it all.
Talk about Jeremy's performance. How effective was he tonight?
Great. You know, he set the tone that third quarter. You couldn't even tell James Harden was on the floor in the beginning of the first 5 minutes because Jeremy was taking over and helping us get the lead. So
Lin was clearly the primary floor general in the Suns game, and I think in general the offense flows much better when Lin is the primary floor general. Now, I also like having Lin playing off the ball as well. I don't want Lin handling the ball all the time. I think that would also be a mistake. If you have two guys who are great playmakers in Lin and Harden, you need to utilize them both. But I think the split should be more like 65% Lin and 35% Harden when they're both on the floor together. I would say 70-30, but McHale has pretty much stopped staggering their minutes. In the Suns game, it was more like 80-20 or something like that. I think Lin should be the primary floor general because Harden is way better than Lin at playing off the ball, and Lin is equal to or better than Harden at being a floor general. So it was irrational to me why anyone would play Lin off the ball more than Harden. That's why I sent those tweets to Morey back in December. I know I'm getting off topic again, but while we're still on the Suns game, here are two examples of great decision making by Lin.
Up to Jeremy, under a minute left to play. Jeremy Lin gives it up to Harden.
But their defense has been the catalyst, and when you're playing good defense, things like this happen.
Well, what a great play this was on both ends.
Chandler Parsons with the block, and Jeremy Lin with a great pass drawing the defense, and one for Chandler Bang. The Rockets have really done a nice job getting out on the fast break tonight, pushing the tempo, scoring a lot of points, playing the way they need to play to win.
I think a lot of players are too careless on fast breaks because they think they're entitled to an easy basket. I see players just run over the defense and get for charges quite a bit in transition, or just force bad shots and give away critical possessions. I prefer them to slow down and take care of the ball rather than try and force something because they think they're entitled to easy points because they stole the ball or something. Anyway, Jeremy made great decisions in these two fast breaks by stopping short in one possession and handing it off to a trailing Harden after he faced a congested lane. Then in the second possession, he dropped it off to Parsons at the last minute rather than trying to force up a shot against a shot blocker. While we're off topic, I've noticed Lin taking on a more leadership role lately. For example, here's an excerpt from the March 13th Ultimate Rockets article about the Suns game. I'm not sure if people saw it, but in last night's Wolves game, during a timeout, I saw Jeremy Lin talking non-stop to the entire team. And it looked as if he was talking at the same time as McHale, which I'm not sure what that was all about. But it looked like Lin was taking charge maybe in a similar fashion to what he did during the timeout in the Suns game. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Now, without further ado, here are two most recent McHale post-game interviews after the Suns game and last night's Wolves game.
Jeremy's play seemed like he was very much in control, really, from start to finish, especially during that run there, second and third quarter.
I thought Jeremy played very well. I thought Jeremy's defense was very good. You know, he got good anticipation. You know, he sees stuff. He's got good hands. He dug out some balls, and just came out. Made easy plays. I say James really put us on his back tonight and got going. I really liked Jeremy's defense the second half. He was really into it and kind of took Rubio out, made him and we made a couple adjustments. But I don't know. Adjustments are overrated. It's just it's how hard you work at it, and they worked at it a lot harder in the second half. But he played great. I mean, I thought Jeremy's defense in the second half, his intensity and his defense was really as big of a part of us turning that thing around as James's offensive flow.
McHale also has some great insights into being a young player and said some nice things about his young guys.
There are days of massive frustration, but there's also days when you just kind of realize how young we are. So I remember back as a young player, even in college, you didn't play that often, but it was hard to turn a bad game into a good game. And it's hard to explain, but it's like weird. It's like the snowball would get rolling, and all of a sudden you miss a couple chippies, and all of a sudden your man scores on you, and then you have a sure block, but you don't get it, and you get an end one, and you're like, oh my goodness, and it just starts going. At some point, you just play enough games that you just go, and a relaxation factor comes in, and you have a 2-point, half in the first half with 3 fouls, and you come out and have 24 in the second half. And that doesn't happen your rookie year very often, I can tell you that. So yeah, him and most of the other guys need to have something good happen. But I remember those days, and it's just and it's hard to explain to people unless you've done it. But you play enough in the NBA that the snowball doesn't just go cascading down the mountain again. You get it under control and you play better. Our guys aren't at that point yet, so it's nice to see them have some good stuff happen early.
You say no yelling any louder at halftime and during timeouts. Was there yelling?
Yeah, I yelled the whole game. That's why my throat sounds like it does right now. Yeah, they were making me mad tonight. They normally just frustrate me tonight. They made me mad. There's a difference. The frustration I'm living with, the madness, I don't know. I got to get off that. But they responded, and that's credit to them. And I've said it all year long. They're a good group of kids, man. They're a good group of young men. They really are. And you can coach them hard. You can jump their ass. They don't. They take it. They're a good young group. It's just the problem is they're really young, and they do stuff that makes me just shake my head a lot. Then they do stuff like that in the second half, and you go like, well, I guess all is right with the Rockets, huh? I'm out of here.
I thought McHale provides some great insights with his whole snowball effect analogy. These comments help me understand where he's coming from a lot more. It makes me feel like he does sympathize with his young players. I also thought he showed a lot of respect for his young players, and it's pretty clear that he really appreciates them. In the second video about McHale, I said that I think McHale was probably just really angry and was not thinking straight. His response about his guys in these post-game interviews confirms that McHale was just delirious with anger and wasn't thinking straight in that practice interview, and that's why he acted so irrationally. You can blame him for not being professional, but I guess you can't blame him for losing his temper. It happens. It's clear in these interviews, when he's much calmer, that he does really appreciate the guys that he's coaching, that he really does value them and does think that they're a great group of guys. Overall, I think he has good chemistry with the guys. They respect him and they like him. That's a huge aspect of coaching that can't be measured. I'm really glad to see all of this because it gives me more hope that the Mavs game was a turning point and that McHale is really starting to come around on what Lin can do. I hope it keeps continuing along the same trajectory because I would like to see Lin stay in Houston for the long haul. I love rooting for this team and I love every player on this team. As I wrote in my blog at the beginning of the season, they're the most interesting team in the NBA. There's so many great stories on this team, and I'm also a fan of the new guys. Not sure how many people are familiar with T-Rob's story, but he lost his grandmother, grandfather, and mother all within 3 weeks of one another while he was still in college. Very, very heartbreaking stuff. I've included a link to this story in the description below. I never intended this to be some sort of McHale watchdog channel, and since this is the third video I've done about McHale, I plan on laying off talking about McHale for a while. Hopefully he gives me no more reason to talk about him. I'll still be watching to see if McHale lets Lin play through mistakes and trusts Lin to be the primary floor general. I really hope this is a new chapter for Lin and McHale, and that we're done with this whole McPhail-Lin dynamic. Thanks again for listening, and thanks for all the great feedback in all the videos so far. I've enjoyed reading the comments, and even though I'm not able to respond to all of them, keep the comments coming. I'd like this to be a forum for you guys to start discussions with one another. As always, thumbs up, thumbs down, etc.